it was here that Ghidorah was given a second chance at life. And the first thing that he did was take it out on the one who ended him. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Matthew, and today we are doing the next Playmates review in the line, and hope everyone's enjoying themselves. I'm currently recording this on a Friday night, specifically a Friday at midnight, but of course to celebrate the occasion I've got some fancy lights. Yes, I bought these lights, and this isn't going to be like the whole review, it's just going to be the intro, so don't worry, you'll get your fair look. But I wanted to really at least bring it back to 2022. You can skip ahead to the actual part of the review, but I wanted to talk a bit briefly about not just the figure in specific, but I want this video to almost be like reliving 2022. I don't know about you guys, but for me, 2022 was, at least the first part of the year, was a really good year. It was also pretty good towards the second half, but the first half was really good. I had like these fancy neon LED lights along these shelves. You can actually see the shelf right there along them, and it was like blue and red together, they made purple, and it was so visually spectacular. So I kind of want to return to that in a new way with this like light that I bought. It was like 25 bucks. I can't remember the exact price, but I did buy it, and yeah, I'm just having the time of my life with it. You know, I don't use it actually that much, but I do use it from time to time. But here we're actually like using it to its full capacity. So now that I have that intro part of that way, I'm just really trying to use it to my best of my ability. Today we're going to be taking a look at the next line in Playmates' Godzilla vs. Kong original wave line, the MechaGodzilla with Proton Scream, specifically the Battle MechaGodzilla. Yes, not to be confused with the Battle Roar MechaGodzilla. That's a different figure. Same mold, just different features. Like it's bigger, it has the colors of the standard MechaGodzilla, and it roars with more limited articulation. This one is a standard 6-inch figure with an accessory with the battle damage, and you all know and love it. Or do you love it? In my original rating of the Playmates Godzillas, I placed this guy tied with the MechaGodzilla at first. Not gonna lie here, that opinion has changed because I think I was being a bit too nice with this thing. But today I'm going to be taking a more critical look at the second attempt by Playmates in what was essentially one of their last Godzilla vs. Kong toys before they transitioned to the MonsterVerse. So with that said, let's enjoy the Godzilla vs. Kong Battle MechaGodzilla with Proton Scream. Hope you guys enjoyed the lights while you could, because they're probably not going to come back until the outro, because I think at this point I'm going to start formatting my reviews from now on just to make them a bit more lively, plus I want more unique content. Anyway, for the accessories, because we're going to swap them now, is going to be the Proton Scream, which is going to be a piece of red rubber plastic that in the past I've said looks like a Twizzler, and I still stand by that claim. But for the actual mold, we have a bit of like a splash effect going on here. It's kind of hollowed out at the tips, but it's only because the way it was casted. But of course we have the little label inside there. Kind of looks like some sort of like vortex, honestly. So yeah, we have like this little splash effect, and then we have like the plasma bits in there. It's a bit more of an opaque plastic compared to the other beam effects that Playmates has released through the years. And we have the little peg in there as well. And just some more wavy like detail, which by the way, this is the correct position that's supposed to go in, which I kind of find a little dumb because you think that the beam would be like firing like this, not like this. Anyway, so this looks pretty cool, right? You can actually stick your finger in here like you do to something. So what seems to be like the big thing here? Does this happen to give you a case of deja vu? What? Not seeing it? For those that don't know the answer, that is because it is the exact same mold as the beam that comes with Godzilla. It is one for one the same. Now, it's funny because this beam within itself actually is inspired by the SH Monster Arts 2014 Spitfire beam, which I can actually prove it by comparing the shapes of it. Maybe the designer of this beam actually was inspired by it. I'm not saying they took the mold, I'm saying they were inspired by the design. Just flipped. Anyway, So what's the big problem with the beam? Well, I'm not expecting 100% accuracy with Playmates because they're a kids' toys company. It's like impossible to take these photorealistic kaiju and probably it's hard to compress them down to like a $10 figure. That said, I feel like the beam could have been done a little bit better for a few reasons. One, MechaGodzilla has a very different beam compared to Godzilla himself. Godzilla's always had a flame slash plasma like beam, even down to the 2014 where it almost looked like mist. So it would make sense for the beam to look like this. The MechaGodzilla beam should not look like this. MechaGodzilla's beam was always more centered and focused, concentrated than Godzilla's, which is probably part of the reason why he won the initial beam clash in the movie. This looks actually kind of cool. But well, boom, and then you get it. But having it more plasma and flame-like just doesn't look right to me for a bit of reasons. But again, it's made of malleable plastic. But anyways, enough of Godzilla's beam. That was his review. This is MechaGodzilla's review. So to put in the accessory, you're going to notice a peg hole at the top of his mouth. And you're going to want to put the peg in, right? So you do so. And I'd suggest just for maximum security, clamp down the jaw, as we'll talk about in articulation. And the beam is good to go, right? Yes and no. What I mean by that is, display-wise, yes, he looks correct. But, big conundrum here. As I knocked down the whole figure, that was not meant to happen. There's a bit of an issue with this beam. It comes out way too easily. Now, granted, yes, I did technically shake the figure, but here's the thing. Little kids are going to rattle this thing until there's no coming home. They're going to take their Godzilla toy and their MechaGodzilla toy, and they're going to go boom, boom, boom. That required barely any effort. Then again, I am practically a full-grown man. Those are kids with tiny little arms. But seriously, I feel like the connection of the beam could have been better. Now, thankfully, they did fix this with the new Empire releases. But considering the fact, you saw that, right? That was fully pegged in, and that I just looked down, boom. This MechaGodzilla is going to be sticking around. We'll talk about that later, but this beam is just not doing it for me. It looks awkward like this. I don't know, just something just looks off about this red beam. I'm cool to have like a Spitfire 6-inch MechaGodzilla, which to my knowledge is only one of two that exist. This guy and the MonsterVerse one that's either coming out or came out. I don't know. I saw the promo pics and then I forgot all about it. That said, the beam itself honestly kind of sucks and is both in its connection, because again, it's molded for a different figure, not for the MechaGodzilla, and it just doesn't look that impressive as well. It's small, I get it. It actually has a little bit of black crud floating around about it. I know I've been ranting about a piece of rubber this whole time, so let's move on to actually a redeeming quality about the figure, and that's going to be the chest piece, the battle damage. Which, of course, this was part of Playmates' signature gimmick. Here we have all the tech and metal inside with all the gun hidden compartments, the same stuff that we've seen with the previous MechaGodzilla, and of course the Among Us style chest plate that is going to be broken off, which again, funny enough, Kong did strike this area in the movie, so if you wanted to technically, so to speak, create that, you could. But of course, it's gonna be like this to match the mold on the inside, and to put it in, go bottom first, I would say, bottom first, and then carefully realign it, kind of push it a little bit to the side, and then kind of smush everything down, and there you go. Now, as far as the actual look, you can clearly see where it is, but as far as color on color goes, I would say it's one of the better ones in this original line. You can definitely tell where the battle damage lines up with the body, but at least as far as detail is concerned, it's at least pretty evened out, even though that seam line is ugly as hell. So the battle damage feature does add some things, but the beam effect really, like, what is practically the main selling point, because you can make or break the battle damage, but the beam effect is what really gives this guy's identity. And because, in my personal opinion, the beam effect just isn't that good, like, to be honest, it really kind of falls flat. So for accessories, I'm sorry, but I'm going to give this thing a 6 out of 10. Not very impressive. It's okay as far as, like, thank you for featuring the Proton Scream. You guys were the first company to do so. And the battle damage, cool gimmick, and I do like it, but not very great execution on the beam. Anyway, down to the actual figure at hand. Like I've made mention, this is going to be the exact same mold, detail-wise, as the previous MechaGodzilla we took a look at, that being the He variant. Yeah, pretty much everything is the same. The head, the sides of the chest itself, the arms, the legs, the tail. So we're going to be kind of doing like a generic overview of this guy. Kind of realizing there's a bit of like crud floating in right in there. There we go. There you go. Be gone. Anyway. Actually, no, it's not gone. Whatever. You could say. For the actual head, again, the same red eyes make a return. They're like believe it or not, the only painted thing on this figure. Everything else is practically just plastic. So yeah, red paint. The face has a bunch of mechanical details, different panel linings. The jaw has all the mechanical gears you can see, with the teeth kind of bulging out. There you go. More tech stuff. Stuff that looks like gills on the neck, different segmenting and line patterns under the jaw, just for reference. A little bit of color difference I'm noticing, but that's okay. Again, different neck alignments. For the chest, we have some panel alignments, kind of like going down, 3 on each side, 6 in all. We have the chest piece that's right here. A bunch of the segments, like the mechanical gun components, like literally these are guns. These are, I don't think they were ever used in the movie, which is funny because he can like shift his body. So I wonder how that works like mechanically. Whatever. It's an Adam Wingard movie. Adam Wingard practically gives the middle finger to logic, like at that point. We have a bunch of more mechanical components on the sides. Stuff that kind of looks like ribs with kind of more fleshed out details. Here we have MechaGodzilla's technically cockpit penis. We have more of the side panels here as well with the arms, with the legs. Actually, let's just go back to the arms here. The arms are going to be made of big rectangles with X's on the sides, almost paying homage to the original MechaGodzillas of decades past. Shoulder pads, more rectangular bits on the actual forearm. And for the claws, this one's more clenched in, this one is more clenched out. You put your right clenched in and you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. Anyway, reliving my childhood anyway. We have more like the claw details here, hinged out. So we do get a bit more like that splay detail. I almost wish it was like posability. I think the giant one has it. I still have yet to get the giant one, although it is possible for me to get it. Again, going back to the legs, more or less the same details we get on the arms, because we have like the X's on the side panels, and then we have more of like the mechanical components as far as the hinges go, and then we have the almost what looks like wheels, very elongated wheels. But again, more of like mechanical components to help MechaGodzilla like get shielded. Maybe he's like taking a blow from the side. So I guess this is like his armor, his exoskeleton. Although this part is kind of exposed. Although he would definitely be able to knee right in the shin. I think there's like a scene in the movie where MechaGodzilla like kicks Godzilla full force with his knee, or actually knees him right in the belly. You can actually see his ribcage in that scene anyway. Going to the feet, we have like splayed out feet, which I kind of wish they were a bit more condensed, just because like I'm not a fan of like his more, not webbed feet, but more splayed out feet. And for the dorsal plates, they're again red rectangles that are going to be actually like a ruby red. So you, in certain lighting conditions, you can get it to look more purple-ish. Because like I'm kind of looking at my shadow, it's kind of hard to like show, but I am seeing like a bit of a purple hue, so that is pretty cool. But the whole thing is going to be translucent down to here, And of course for the tail, we're going to be multi-segmented, the same stuff you've seen last time. Here's the drill. Just a bit of a better look at that. There you go. And all the top parts are going to be translucent plastic. So here's one last look underneath, to the side, from behind, to this side, above, and the front. So again, for the sculpt and paint, nothing's really changed. Although something they did change is that the original had these red panel linings on the front. You think that for being a Spitfire MechaGodzilla, which would have those exposed or like glowing, say, you would think they would have to at least make them translucent or like give them some sort of fancy paint job. Nope. The whole thing is gray. The only thing that's really painted is going to be the eyes. Yeah. Honestly, that's pretty disappointing, even for a Playmates figure. Like, again, not to bring him in, like, this early, but his counterpart, so to speak, the Heat Ray Godzilla, was almost fully painted. We had painted jaw, painted eyes, painted claws, painted sides, like the dry brush, and also painted dorsal plates. Granted, they weren't all painted, but what I'm asking is, why did Playmates bother to paint this guy almost in his entirety and later paint a nearly full repaint, the Hong Kong Battle variant, which I'd love to get my hands on, but not paint the MechaGodzilla? I get it. It's a very specific design, but don't be afraid to at least give this guy some sort of mechanical dry brush or some sort of red highlights, especially for his upcoming reissue. Don't be afraid to go back to the drawing board a bit, Playmates. Like, there's so much more you could do with the sculpt and paint. So because it's something we've already seen, it at least does it well with the detail. The detail is almost top notch, especially for a Playmates. But the paint, sorry, but those eyes do not save the figure. So, in my personal opinion, sculpt and paint gets a 6.5 seems low. We're going to bump that to a 7. At least it knows what it's supposed to be. For articulation, we have a hinged jaw, which we can go open about that far, close up about that far. Nothing at the head because it's entirely locked. The shoulders can go pretty much kind of a full 360 like this. But as far as like rotating it can go up about this far because of the shoulder pad, and back about this far because of the shoulder pad, and go out to the side this far, goes in about that far. Nothing at the elbows, nothing at the wrists, and nothing at the claws. Again, missed opportunity after missed opportunity after missed opportunity. The legs, however, are super articulated. We can actually go out to the side. Let's move this about this far, and it is made of more flexible plastic, although I would recommend kind of like being evasive of that. We can go a full 360 right here, kind of. Actually, maybe not. There's not enough clearance. Maybe there is, but I don't want to risk it because it kind of gets pushed back a bit. Because I know that thing is probably held together by glue, or probably gets sheared off by the plastic. Who knows? Anyway, yeah, we go out to the side, in and kick. I don't know. There's a lot of range with the leg. We can bend in with the knee, like this. We can go full ball joint here at the foot, and a ball joint here for the tail with not a bendable wire, but it is malleable, almost like one. So for the articulation, again, the same song and dance we've seen, who knows, well, technically, so to speak, one time before this. But what I will say is that the MechaGodzilla had very expressive legs. They're probably the best leg joints of any Playmates figure Playmates has produced to date. Notice how I only say the legs. Jaw's cool. It's very expressive because you can open up really wide. Shoulders, great track. You know, you're on the right path, but immediately gets dropped once they ditch the elbows and the wrist. Nothing really at the waist. And the tail, I mean, take it or leave it. But the big problem with the tail, or the articulation, is how loose of a figure it is. Because here he is in a neutral position. Okay, I'm going to get him reared up a little bit. Watch this. Saw that, right? It like pushes it back. See, because like when you want MechaGodzilla kind of reared up, you'd want him a little bit more like this. Oh wow, he's actually doing that. And then, but like sometimes, at least in my personal experience, the legs kind of like sag a little bit. It again really depends on like what pose you have him in. But his legs were just always kind of a problem for me to pose in. That's kind of why I never really touched this guy. That sounded so wrong. That's part of the reason why I never really bothered to take this guy off the shelf all that much, aside from maybe doing the reviews. So, but yeah, sorry to say this, but the articulation, as cool as the legs are, the arms, specifically the arms, and the tail are, as well as the jaw, there's a lot of missed potential here, and I definitely think Playmates could step that up a bit. So 7.5 out of 10 for the articulation. So for some size comparison and size reference, here he is with the Playmates Heat Ray Godzilla and the original original MechaGodzilla, which again, just to show you, they're the exact same. And as a little bonus, you can actually fit this guy's beam into this guy's mouth, and you can swap battle damage pieces. This one's actually kind of hard to get off sometimes, but you can make it work. So, I mean, if you wanted to, you could kind of like create like this weird Frankenstein MechaGodzilla. I mean, not all the parts are just technically, so to speak, pull apart, put back together again. But because of the same sculpt, I mean, stuff like this can also be done. And I think this makes for hours of fun play, doesn't it? And because I kind of teased it earlier, yes, they can share each other's beams. However, because of the way that they're molded, they're the exact same, and the beams will come off pretty easily. So there's that. Just to show Godzilla with the Proton Scream. He finally achieved it, the red spiral ray. Can't you tell? Can you tell at this point I'm basically just a man-child? And here he is compared to the Kongs of the line, with Kong with Battle Axe and Kong with Fighter Jet. I was about to say Kong with Beast Club, but neither of these are the GXK Kong. And going from MechaGodzilla to NECA-Godzilla, here he is with some 6-inch Godzilla figures with the NECA-Godzilla 2019 V1 from King of the Monsters and the SH Monsters Godzilla 2021 from Godzilla vs. Kong. And so for my final thoughts, yes, we brought back the light show. Let's actually dim our lights. There you go, now it's a true party. Anyways, for my final thoughts about the Battle MechaGodzilla Proton Scream, this is going to be, in my personal opinion, one of those things that is really cool in concept, but not so much in execution. Let me explain. The Battle MechaGodzilla Proton Scream is, again, just as I described it, good in idea, not so much in practice. The sculpt work is pretty good. I mean, it's actually one of Playmates' best. The paint job is absolutely lackluster because the only paint on it is technically, so to speak, the eyes, when they could have done so much more. And the articulation gets cut off thanks to the arms because they're just one solid piece, when I feel like they could have really benefited with some more hinges and swivels, bells and whistles all. And the accessories, well, the beam effect is just really, really sloppy. And I really don't see like why the Proton Scream turned out the way it did, because again, while they're both Godzillas technically, so to speak, that shoot out laser beams, they're different type of laser beams. This is a much more focused beam than Godzilla's and should have been a bit more slender, for lack of a better term, slimmer. It should have been a more concentrated, focused, narrow beam. That's what I would have liked. And the battle damage piece is a cool gimmick, and I do like it returning here. But that said, for my overall thoughts, if I had to recommend this figure, I would say definitely keep this guy in the blocks, because you're going to have a hard time actually displaying this. That's the thing here. This setup is actually kind of hard because you have Kong with Godzilla here, like tag teaming him. And yeah, we're just having a full-blown rave party, aren't we? Anyway, For my final rating, I'm gonna give this figure a solid 7 out of 10. Not the greatest figure. It's good in some aspects, but really lacks in a lot of others. Anyways, that's all I have for this video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out, everyone.